Hello, I would like to talk about the soon-to-be disastrous launch of Killing Floor 3. I really just want to talk about the playtest. But I can't even talk about the playtest without first talking about the scummy, attempt at narrative control going on with this from Tripwire. So let's get this started on the right foot. How about that? So I was on the discussion board for the playtest, and I kept seeing everyone talking about their posts getting merged into other posts. So I just opened up one of the pages and then sat on it for a bit, and yeah, what do you know? They wait for it to leave the front page, then they merge about half of the fucking pages together. And it's like this for every goddamn page on the discussion board. They are trying to merge together all of the bad feedback. There's also an insane NDA. Frankly, I don't even know if I'm allowed to make this video just talking about the playtest. They are being super strict, taking down every bit of information they can about this. And they're doing that because it fucking sucks. In the 4 months that the game has been down for this new playtest, they have not changed anything. That's how I know this game's going to be an absolute disaster launch. They haven't changed a single thing. So let's talk about the two things that they've actually changed. Actually, first, it's easier to talk about what they haven't changed. The operators aren't going anywhere. The shitty voice lines aren't going anywhere. You're not going to get an option to turn them off. You're not, the shitty guns are not going to be changed at all. They're still taking up a third of the screen. They still look and sound like garbage. They're not going to change like stims or the animation. All of that shit is the same. So all of the physical gameplay pain points that everyone complained about that said the game was just trash to play, all of that has not even been modified, not even slightly modified. So everything that everyone said about the actual physical moment-to-moment gameplay is not only exactly the same, no, it's literally just exactly the same as it was. So just get the notion that anything has changed in 4 months out of your head. The only thing they have changed from then till now is superfluous bullshit. Like how the gun feel, quote unquote, and I'll talk about that in a second, and the art direction, quote unquote. Okay, so let's talk about the supposed gun feel first. So this is from one of the trailers. Now, listen to this weapon, and I'm going to show you, or well, not show you because I fucking can't show you. I'm going to tell you what it is that they changed. So just listen to this. So, by the way, that's like a shotgun. So, do you just hear how the gun sounds like a pellet gun almost? It's super quiet, it's super muted. So they did not do anything to make the guns actually have a substantially better feel. What they did, and I'm not joking, they literally went into the gunshot.mp3 file, and the first nanosecond they went into like Audacity, went on like the gain slider, and cranked it up like 20 decibels. The initial first explosion gunshot sound, not the actual gunshot, not the impact, just the initial little pellet pop pop pop, that is now it's really fucking loud. Now, this does not make the guns feel any better. What they are hoping for, and as I showed earlier with them merging and deleting and heavily censoring everything about the game, taking down every discussion, every video, all that shit, what they're trying to do is they're hoping that people just say, oh, look, they took it down, it came back, now it feels better, even though nothing's really changed. They made the most minor cosmetic changes, and they're hoping that the discussion becomes, man, wasn't this such a comeback? They listened to us. It's so much better now. But no, it's fucking still garbage. The guns do not have any weight to them. So the two things they changed were massively increasing the initial volume sound of the first split second of every gunshot. And second, they increased the gun shake. Not the recoil, not anything else. You know the little left-right wobble that happens when you shoot a gun in an FPS game? This game has more wobble than Counter-Strike does, and Counter-Strike is a game where you don't ADS ever, you hip fire. So think about that. You have more gun shake than a game designed to have shaky guns because you don't actually have to use their sights for anything, because they don't have sights. So it feels like fucking garbage. And the second thing they've changed is the quote-unquote art direction. Now, when they say art direction, they don't mean they've reworked any of the maps to fit a new direction. No. What they mean to say is they dimmed the lighting on some maps, making them like dark instead of, daytime. But on most maps, they just added an ambient like occlusion fog everywhere, and they added, well, they didn't really add, but they turned the lights down about 20 to 30% across the board, and they just added this like ambient fog and haze to every map, getting super dense when you look in the sky unless it's an outdoor map. And that's really all they did. They did not change any designs of the enemies. They did not change any of the interiors. Every single interior still looks like they just made a cube in Blender, dropped the material on it, and then sprayed like red blood on it in Substance Painter. So the direction has not changed. It's just now they darkened everything. That's literally all it is. They just darkened everything to hide the blemishes. But the actual direction would involve changing almost every asset in the game, which is just not going to happen ever. The game still feels like shit to play. The movement is still fucking terrible. You still cannot dash unless you're just walking. You can't dash if you're aiming down sights. You can't dash if you're sprinting, which is fucking insane, by the way. You're sprinting to kite enemies because that's the only way to stay alive. And then they do a projectile or a very quick attack you need to react to, which needs a quick dodge to get out of the way. Well, you can't do that because you were sprinting. You have to stop sprinting, then dodge. Or stop ADSing, then dodge. It's just the worst feeling thing I've ever seen. And that's literally as simple as someone could make a mod for that in a day. So the fact that they haven't changed that in 4 months means they 100% view that as integral to the game's balance, which means that's never gonna fucking change. Stims still have an animation that I counted this with OBS. It's like 200 frames long. After the initial health bar goes up, the injection, there's like 200 frames of ending lag on it. It's like ridiculous. So you're stuck never being able to move. You have very little freedom of movement. You have an insanely long healing animation. The guns still feel like shit to use. Another thing that I noticed, in Killing Floor 2, one thing they would do is whenever you would shoot, if you would chain headshots, you would hear the guitars in the soundtrack, like the jun, jun, jun. It would ramp up a little bit with every single like chained headshot or like melee push off. Especially during Z time when everything is like real fucky and whooshy. So you would just get, the guitars would very much alter around what you're doing. And it's very slight, but okay, the best way to word this, think about Doom Eternal, but a very basic, primitive version of that. Whereas in Killing Floor 3, the music, I actually was like trying to get hard numbers on this by exporting some recorded gameplay to a video editor. And I'm not making this up. The music actually like attunes itself. It turns itself down like 12% when you're in the thick of fighting. Whereas Killing Floor 2 would tend to turn up the music for high action sections, and the music would like, those big treble moments would increase the impact of everything you were doing. Whereas in this game, it turns itself down for some reason. It's very subtle. But it just increases the feeling of shittiness. Because the overwhelming thing that you hear in combat in this game is some combination of pop, 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 pop. There's no, like, meat to it. There's no meat to it. The audio design of this game, it is ice cream. It is ice cream. You are going to a high-end restaurant, and you're ordering a plate of food expecting a juicy steak dinner, but instead you are getting a plate of fucking candy. It really is impressive. The very first time you see it, you can get wowed by it, like, oh man, everything is so loud. But it's muddy. It's loud and muddy and very in your face. There is no subtlety. Genuinely, I do not think this game had a game director. It does not feel like there was a Quentin Tarantino or a Beethoven, that was just sitting there directing each aspect of the game, saying, well, the music needs to impact the flow with the gameplay like this. During these moments, we want guitars to ramp up, and the gun needs to, the explosion needs to fade in when Z time happens, or fade out when Z time happens, so that the bass can be amplified. And then when Z time happens, the enemies need to stagger more, so it looks like they're really crumpling under the weight of these bullets while the guitars are picking up. No, there's none of that. It's just fucking crank it up, max it out, Jimbo. Fucking make it really loud. Loud is good, right? It's very. This is a game that is desperately trying. This is a game made by like 35-year-olds trying to appeal to 16-year-olds. That's what this feels like. That is genuinely what this feels like. It's fucking terrible. And it reminds me of Payday 3. Just so much it reminds me of Payday 3. A beloved franchise. And the you know what? That's another thing. I wasn't going to include this, but fuck it. I'm if you've watched this long, you won't mind this section as well. This game has no business being co-op. Text chat is not in the game yet, and it was not even planned to be in the game. Again, it's been 4 months and you can't make a fucking text chat box? Why? How? I could code a text chat box in an Unreal game like this in literally 30 minutes. Literally, it takes me... I know because I've done it before. I've made a text mod for another game in Unreal. It takes me 30 fucking minutes to make it. So how can you possibly say it's on your priority list, but it's been 4 months? So the changes are just absolute amateurish developers as well. That's another thing I want to point out. Complete amateur skill level development team. Because the absolute bare essential features like text or operator swapping, things that most people could make in a day as an unpaid modder as a hobby, they cannot achieve as a professional paid studio in 4 months. So there's either some insane managerial like oversight, like whatever it's called, where micromanaging, that's what the word I'm looking for. There's either some insane like corporate metal micromanaging going on here, or these are genuinely just incompetent developers. And I really like that sounds harsh, doesn't it? But I really think it's time that consumers of video games just kind of start calling it for what it is. Because how many times do people need to get ripped off with games like Payday 3? Oh, we promise we'll make it so much better. We work so hard. Then a modder does what took them... then a single unpaid guy in his off hours after work does what took them months to do. Like, can we just admit that most developers are not very skilled at all? Anyway, that's a complete side thing. Why is this game co-op? There is not a single mechanic that encourages cooperation. You cannot, like, trade Flesh Pound or Scrake aggro like you could in Killing Floor 2. One guy shoots it so it charges them. The other guy shoots it so it charges them. Bosses don't have mechanics like that. Like, the King Flesh Pound is not a thing. Nothing is anywhere near that complicated. Bosses are just things that bum rush you down and do a big AoE for, like, guaranteed damage. The medic does not need to actually aim darts or try to hit anything. It's not like TF2 medic over here. It's I click the button and I place down a fucking thing and everything is like homing. There isn't even, it's just like, it's just so soulless. This is the most soulless game I've ever played. There is no need for this game to be co-op at all. There's no way to communicate with people. Voice chat is off by default. Text chat is somehow taking them half a year to create. I know a fucking text box that sends a message. Literally, one of the first pieces of software ever created in the fucking 80s is just it's impossible. It's impossibly complex in 2026. But anyway, so there's no way to communicate. There's no real way to make friends in this game because you can't, like, hunt someone's Steam profile down anymore because Steam removed that feature because, God forbid, it'd be so toxic. And it's just like, you're basically just playing with three... They're no different than bots because you can't really interact with them. The other players, it's basically like 4 people are just playing a single-player game in the same proximity as one another, and you occasionally see them. There's no reason for this game to be co-op. In fact, this game, I almost dare to say this game would be better if it wasn't co-op. But then again, if you launch this game as is, without some multiplayer component for people to say, at least it's fun with friends all over Reddit, then this game would be like overwhelmingly negative. People would straight up call it a scam. Yeah, I just it's fucking terrible. This game literally, it genuinely doesn't do anything right. It's actually hard to comprehend how bad this game actually is. And I fully expect there to be a wave of people day one, by the way, that say like, man, this game is so cool. This game is so dope. Oh, look, they listened to us. They fixed our biggest complaints. We can change our operators around now. But they're going to completely ignore the fact, why the fuck is it an operator-based hero shooter to begin with? Like, just from the get-go, the premise is not going to be good. This is very much a situation where this game has all of the symptoms of cancer, but instead of trying to just cut out the cancer, you're trying to cure, like, the disease sickly look. You know, you're more concerned with putting a wig on after the chemotherapy than you are on if the cancer's actually been removed. That's basically this game. This game is a chemotherapy patient that is going through, like, plastic surgery. That is the best way to describe this game.